This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, good evening, my friends, and happy Fantopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes, sitting here in Salt Lake, and it is cold and miserable, and needless to say, the inversion here is absolutely horrific. We have people walking around with masks on, and yes, we have air quality that rivals China, and so we're kind of hunkered down. It's a nasty time of year here, still no snow, and we're praying for snow. I hear some of you back east have had snow that we should be getting to clear this gunk out, but I am busily preparing for the holidays, and well, who am I kidding? I haven't even started Christmas shopping yet, but it's kind of the way I roll. I like to do it on December 24th. I hope you are all having a wonderful week, and as always, I am busy talking to people, getting information, doing research, and it is never a dull moment in my world. And, then I've got the day job. But as I move further and further into my research, into my own personal journey, to me, I look at certain cases, I gravitate towards certain people who have a wherewithal, who have knowledge, who have the understanding that there is more to this than science, that this is something much deeper, much more personal. And one of those people is my guest tonight, Norm Gagnon, who is a brilliant researcher, and Norm, you've been doing this since '86, right?
Paranormal investigation, yes. I've been at it since the mid '80s, yes.
Wow.
Just recently, I've been doing a lot of, at least the last 14 years, focusing on UFOs and aliens and with the research within that realm.
And that's amazing. I mean, I've started researching this or really studying about it back in the 80s as well. I must have been about 2 years old. Who am I kidding on that one? Not going to divulge my age, but you were with MUFON as a field investigator, and then you were appointed to the MUFON STAR Team and the strike team in 2008, appointed as a special agent for the STAR Team Impact Project through Bigelow Aerospace. And that is really fascinating. We're going to have to talk about that tonight. And then you were also featured in the Discovery Channel miniseries UFOs Over Earth as the lead investigator in my favorite case, which is the Chris Bledsoe case. And we are going to talk about that as well. I have become very dear friends with Chris, and I know that you were an incredible researcher, and you were the first person in there, and you did a lot of the work, and I'm excited for you to share all of what you experienced and what you learned on that case. This is going to be a great night. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, glad. Thank you for inviting me again.
I know. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's a little chilly here in Washington, D.C. area. We had a little bit of snow and slush. Now it stops. So hopefully tomorrow we're going to have a heat wave of 50 degrees. So all of that.
And you're back there, oh my gosh, you've got the political action going on back there too.
Oh yeah, a lot of. I reside within the Beltway, so there's a lot of craziness around here, politically speaking as well. So where do you want me to start with?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, I want to say in our last interview, which was a little over a year ago, we talked about your paranormal work, and I think this is really fascinating. And you mentioned that you had a visit to Leap Castle in Ireland, and I want to just talk about that for a second, because I think the paranormal aspect to all of this is incredibly important, and it's interesting that both of us have been to the same place.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was, I believe, in 2006. I joined a group, a ghost hunters group called DC Mag. They were, at that time I was talking and interviewing local ghost hunters, and I decided to join this group, and as a observer, they invited me to, in Old Town, Alexandria, a very historic place, multiple buildings that were built back in the late 1700s and within that era. And we had a lot of activity. I caught a lot of entities. I guess you could, I don't want to say ghosts or spirits, but I caught a lot of unusual elements on film. At that time, I was using 35 millimeter film. And anyway, digress. I was with DC Mag. DC Mag, Al T.S. was the head of the group, and he asked me to join the group as a consultant, I guess. And he was very close with the TAPS team, and Jason,
and Grant.
And Grant, I'm sorry, Grant Wilson. And they were pretty much in communication, but he was living in D.C. They were living up north. So going back to Ireland, I'm sorry. 2006, a whole team, his group and myself, we decided to spend a week in Ireland, and it was awesome. We stayed, oh my goodness, 3 different castles, and one of which by the way, Barry Fitzgerald, he's one of the leads in the Ghost Hunters International. That was a spinoff from Ghost Hunters series at Sci-Fi Channel. So we met with him. He was the driver, and he drove us, and we stayed in, oh my goodness, Ross Castle. That was our main place, and we visited all different graveyards. Lep Castle, one of which. The only thing about Lep Castle, we went there with the whole group, and we were trying to get the gentleman inside of the castle. We kept knocking on the door. He did not answer. So we decided to investigate the building and the property and the whole surrounding area. And you got to believe me, that place is very, very scary at night. And just like something out of a film, there were a lot of bats flying around as well.
Oh.
And they were really, that place, I felt very uncomfortable.
Interesting.
And I took some pictures, and I didn't capture anything on it. I kind of wish the guy would. Barry made a few phone calls, but I think he's just stepped out. So, but just visiting the property itself was intense. I kind of wish that we could have gone inside, but
I'll send you some pictures, because I'm trying to rack my brain. I don't remember how we got so lucky to get inside. I think I was just relentless when I went over there, and we got a hold of Sean Ryan, and I think it was actually the owner of Kennedy Castle. And for those of you who are thinking, what are they talking about? There was, TAPS did a show back, 15 years ago, probably 15 years ago. And they had an American version with Grant and Jason, and then they had the European version. And I remember watching that and seeing Lep Castle, and it was on a few other ghost shows from Europe. And Lep Castle was incredibly haunted, but it's a private residence. And so Sean Ryan is the fellow who owns the residence, and he is one one of the world's best tin whistle players, and his daughter is a world-class Irish dancer. I mean, it's so interesting. But I did, and I'm sad that I didn't go there at night because that sounds really, really cool. But we went up to the Bloody Chapel, which was on the second floor, and that's where the monk was supposed to roam around. But I didn't necessarily have, the creeps like you did. I didn't get those goosebumps. Dang it.
But we did, the castle, one of the castles we were staying in, Ross Castle, and I think there's two of them, but they, I guess on purpose, they put me into a room, a hall, all the way down the hall, and apparently it's supposed to have a woman weeping at night, and so I said, sure, I'll go ahead and I stay here. And then I did hear a whistle or something like a cry, but I think I sort of looked at the bedroom window. There was a little bit of a crack, and I think it was the wind blowing. But I'm not sure because it did sound like a woman weeping. And in the middle of the night also, I heard, it was hard to sleep with all the crackling and noise and all of that, and being in a foreign country. And the flight was pretty horrible, a lot of turbulence. But anyway, I heard tapping. It's almost like a drum out in the hall. So I wasn't too sure what that was. But we did have a meeting with area, I hope I pronounced that right, Wiccans. I guess they're into, I don't want to say witchcraft, but they're heavily into that type of realm. And they came in, and we all sat around the couch in the living room. And one of the guys that was part of my team took some photographs. That's during daylight. There was no flash. And when we looked at the digital result, there was almost like an entity standing right next to one of our guys on the couch, staring at that guy. And he looked like he was looking directly at it, and he was like intense. So I don't have the photo with me, but I do know the guy who has it. And that looked like almost a full silhouette of a glowing entity. And that was pretty unbelievable. And it wasn't a flash or reflection, or it wasn't dust particle. It was something there with us. We didn't see it. We caught it on film.
Oh, you've got to get that picture. I would love to see it.
I've got it somewhere. I've got boxes after boxes full of stuff and CDs and so we'll just have to kind of look through it and organize everything. But it was a beautiful, beautiful country there. Beautiful.
Isn't it? I mean, honestly, it's the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life.
And then Barry Fitzgerald was a wonderful host. He drove us around, and we tried different foods. And, of course, I did try a Guinness beer. It took about 5 minutes to prepare. This is specialty type. It has to be done properly and slowly. And then what he drank, he preferred to drink a cold Budweiser. So I was drinking Irish. He was drinking American. So
that just seems so wrong not to have a Guinness, because that is the best. I have never. You just can't taste Guinness like that over here. I mean, that was amazing. It was
thick, creamy. It was almost a meal. I was stuffed for the rest of the night, but I'm not a drinker. But it was the food, the drinks, and just the whole countryside was wonderful. Wonderful place to visit. I'd like to go again.
Well, you know what we could do? You know what we should do? And I'm throwing this out here because Barry and I have been communicating off and on, and we keep threatening to actually have a conversation and really talk about it. But he reached out to me because he knew that I was interested in the anomalous light phenomenon. And he said, Erica, that's exactly what we've been researching over here. I mean, it's all connected. And wouldn't that be fun if we could get a little TV crew and then go over there and do something with Barry and have him take us around to all of these spots where the same types of things we're researching over here took place?
That would be wonderful. Put me on the list, and we'll see what happens. I have, of course, there's a budget I got to set aside for that, but that would be an extraordinary, fabulous thing to do. I like to, and then teaming up with you and Barry. That will be awesome. So yes, put me on the list.
Okay. You know what? I think I don't know. I've got a way to make things happen. So we're just going to put that out there in the universe and see what happens, because that would be really, really cool. And I love how the paranormal and ufology, it just all leads together. And I think that'd be fun. So we're going to do it. Just going to say that.
Just a quick sort of a humorous story. The flight that it took us, I don't know how long it took. Like it felt like 12 hours. And of course I had to wolf down a airport cheeseburger that was half cooked. So that didn't settle too well in my stomach, and then the turbulence and everything. So I did get sick slightly. And then finally we landed in Dublin, got out of the plane, and everybody saying, "Hey, Barry, Norm is kind of ill. Can you show him?" He took me to a pharmacy, and being disoriented and tired, and he came up to me. He goes, "Hey, Norman, how are you today?" Well, it's great all of the bill. And I looked at him, and I said, "What?" He starts laughing. He spoke English, but I said, "Whoa." But it took me a few minutes to get used to his accent. But, of course, I have a bit of an accent myself, French. So going back and forth like that. But he took me to a pharmacy, and I got that tiny little pill that just knocked everything out, and I felt on top of the world. So I was ready to run around and catch me some ghosts on film. But
sounds like you did. What a great adventure!
Yeah, it's wonderful place.
Yes, love it. And so I just have to say, because you were looking into the paranormal before you started, delving into UFOs and all of that research. But do you feel they are connected?
The connection, in my view, it would seem that the orb seems to tie everything together, in my view, because I mentioned that before. You can have ghost hunters in one field looking at a graveyard, and they would witness an orb hovering above ground for, let's say, 10 feet. And they would say, there's a spirit. We captured it on film. It's got to be a spirit. It's a ghost. And then on the other side of the graveyard, the orb, let's say it starts to levitate upward to maybe 50 feet. And then we got ghost hunters on the other side looking up. He goes, look at that. It's a UFO. It's an alien. It's first contact. And they all get excited. So even there's a couple of cases that I worked on, one of which was in Canada. A woman witnessed a glowing sphere, and I guess you can say an orb, hovering in her backyard. And she just sat there and looking at it and was extremely fascinated. And they had a multiple witness. And the thing is, it didn't, let's say, entity did not emit heat. It was glowing. It didn't affect any of the side of the building. I think they were like aluminum siding. That did not melt or chip or anything like that. So, and then all of a sudden, it just went pop. and disappeared. So what she did, she contacted MUFON, and at that time I was being a international STAR Field Investigator. I was giving the case, so it was, I guess it could have been, obviously we didn't know what it was, so it was an unidentified flying object. So the connections, also, if I may, the connections, there's a lot of folks out there that they actually can feel or sense these orbs, and a few will have telepathically can communicate with it. So it has to be intelligence, something inside that chose to manifest themselves as a glowing sphere that communicates people. There's some people who are psychic or sensitive to these things can feel they're outside, and they will go out, look up, there it is. So I believe there is a connection. Now, how do I prove that? I don't know. I've done paranormal investigation and throughout the whole spectrum of the field of ghost hunt, UFOs, and even within the Bigfoot realm, Sasquatch sightings and man-ape type creatures. People have seen orbs around these creatures, or it's almost like a light telling, say, "Hey, I'm here. Look below me. There's another creature." It's very unusual, and people out there don't want to mix these things. No. I'm a Bigfoot hunter. I'm going to stay on my little side of the street. You UFO people, you stay on that side. So,
and that is so
believe
foolish.
There is a connection.
And thank you. And that is so beautifully put. There absolutely is a connection, and I think it is really silly for us to label things. And I definitely want to talk to you about labeling things. I think that everybody's saying it's extraterrestrial. I don't really think we know, do we? And how can we make that distinction? I think it's really foolish to try to put things in buckets, because we're not going to make any progress that way. And I am looking forward to talking to you about that. And we are going to talk about Chris Bledsoe. I am Erica Lukes here with Norm Gagnon. We are going to take a break. The best is yet to come, so stick around.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Patrick Phillips here, sending warm wishes to you and your family. May your heart and home be filled with all the joys of the season. Happy holidays from Pop Culture Tonight.
The Fenton Files, where it's all connected.
You see, whoever controls technology controls the world.
Come explore a universe full of possibilities. Every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. The Fenton Files. Go where no other show has gone before.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there.
Whether it be UFOs, aliens, conspiracies, or even consciousness, your host, Lorian Fenton, has a file for that. The Fenton Files. Fenton Files. Your journey to the truth is but a file away. Live Monday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The Fenton Files.
Incredibly intense.
Where truth is just waiting to be discovered.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The KCOR Digital Radio Network family this Christmas would like to join you and your family as we celebrate home for the holidays.
I'm psyched. I know it's awesome.
Starting Christmas Eve at 9 p.m. Pacific, the network goes commercial-free, playing the best in Christmas music from around the world.
No one should be alone on Christmas.
Christmas Day, turn us on and leave us on.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it.
From the entire KCOR Digital Radio Network family, Merry Christmas.
Ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
It wasn't that big of a party, and everybody left anyway.
It was two people. It was not a big deal.
Isn't this the same excuse we told our parents? It wasn't that big of a party, and everybody left anyhow. I don't know why the neighbors are even calling you.
State Liquor Authority decided to order the suspension after a boozy party disturbed some of the neighbors who lived nearby. New York Post reported that part of it, and some 400 customers reportedly had defecated and urinated on the homeowner's premises due to long lines at the restaurant.
Oh, God, that's just wrong.
Oh.
Were you trying to get crazy with this, see?
Exactly.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Hello, this is Solaris Blue Raven, host of Hyperspace, exclusively here at KCOR Digital Radio Network, wishing you and your loved ones a very Merry Christmas, stellar solstice, and a magical New Year. Blessed be.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
I want to say that I am very thrilled to be on KCOR, the best digital broadcasting network on the planet. And I want to thank, like I do every show, my producer, Tina Marie, who I hold in such high regard. She is so professional, so incredible. She has a great network, and I'm very, very blessed to be here on a network that has integrity. So I have to say that every show because I really, really mean that. I want to thank all of my friends from all over the world. I get messages constantly, and I'm sorry that I can't respond to all of them, but please know that when I read your comments, they mean the world to me. You are the reason I'm here doing this every week, and I hope that I can provide some bit of support or education about all of this. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am here tonight with someone who I really, really like, and I hope that we get the chance to go over to Ireland. Norm Gagnon. Did I say that right? I practiced.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, you're like,
yes.
You're like, just leave it alone. But I'm trying. But Norm has been someone who, gosh, when did we start talking? It's been probably about 4 years.
Sure. We've been doing a lot of emails exchange too. So it was about 4 years, sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it was interesting to me because there are a few people that I really, I talk to them and I say, wait a minute, this person has got something really important. He's got a lot of knowledge, and I immediately understood that about you and all of, the breadth and depth of all of your research, and then the fact that you were looking into the paranormal aspects, and then the fact that you investigated, in my opinion, one of the most important cases that we've ever seen, which is the Chris Bledsoe case. I mean, it's incredible. So as an investigator, you are top of the line.
Well, thank you. So where would you like to start?
Well, my goodness, we were talking a little bit before we went to break. We were talking about the orbs and then the paranormal connection and the the person in Canada and different things. But I want to right now. I really want to go into the Chris Bledsoe case because of the gravity of this. And Chris has been a guest on my show before, and everyone out there knows how I feel about him. He's an incredible human being who's had incredible experiences, and you were really pivotal in all of this. So tell us how you got involved.
Well, to be fair, from the beginning, let's see. Now, Chris experienced a lot of incredible, intense incidents during that time, which was in 2007. Now, Christopher waited at least a year before telling anyone about it because he wasn't looking for fame or, hey, look at me, and he waited and waited, and then he decided about a year later or so to contact MUFON in January 8th of 2007. Now, to be fair, stepping back, this case originally was given to a North Carolina field investigator, Steve McGee, and he did the preliminary, the first on-site investigation. And I mean, he took a lot of photographs and obtained information from Christopher. But after his visit, actually, it was his visit was in January 24th, 2008. But something occurred at home that he had very important family obligations, and he had to physically step out and take care of situations at home. So this is when, and perhaps I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. This is when MUFON started the STAR Team, which is the Rapid Response Unit. And I was one of 8 field agents that were chosen to be part of the team, and I was the first to be deployed by this unit. And at that time, James Carrion was the director of MUFON. He contacted me and says, Norm, we have a case in North Carolina that it's very important, and we need someone to go there now. So I basically packed my bags and went down there from Washington, D.C. So I met, of course, I called Christopher and let him know that I was coming, and we set a time, a place. We met at in Fayetteville. There was a gas station / convenience store there. We met there, and I followed him to his house. And this is where I pulled out my notebook, penciled digital recorder, and I was asking all sorts of questions. And there was so much that occurred that he witnessed and took part of, which is started at the Cape Fear River and then ended up at his house. But I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you too much information because it's too much information, and this is only a 2-hour show. I mean, I'd be
come on now. Yeah, it's okay. You can come back for part 2.
Let's see. So I met with Christopher and met his family, and he had a beautiful dog named Rose. She was involved with that. And Christopher, I have to apologize in advance if I don't get all the facts correct, or I may skip a lot of details. But he showed me first what occurred he took me to the backyard, and I did see a lot of the grass. Very strange. There was at least a 16-foot diameter burnt grass impression in the middle of his yard. It almost looked like something landed on there. I didn't know what it was, but it was a perfect circle. Along with that trace, there were a lot of elongated lawn markings. It's almost like if you can picture a fiery ball that would land and then roll around the yard, burning, making tracks everywhere. So that was the most unusual thing. I did take some control samples of the grass, dirt, and from within the marking, and then outside, packed and put that away. He took me to the backyard and showed me at the I would say the southwest end of his yard. This is where he witnessed a small, I would say about a 4-foot entity that appeared right in front of him, and he froze. And this thing, I'll go ahead and say alien, was about 4 foot in height, and it almost had an outer shell, gleaming, glowing, and in his eyes, almost had similar goggles that were glowing red, and his mouth had some sort of breathing apparatus, like a mask, and its chest had almost like a box. That who knows what that was, but it almost looked like it needed some type of device. So I guess they could not breathe oxygen, but it was very unusual. So he froze, and he looked at it, and I think for a few seconds later, he just disappeared. So that pretty much made him very uncomfortable. Now, like I said, there's so much occurred between witnessing the entity and the dogs, and they had a kennel in the backyard. The dogs, they had multiple dogs. They were barking and screaming and yapping and all sorts of things. They were very uncomfortable with what's going on in his backyard. And now, stepping back with my being the field investigator, I noticed that the entity appeared right in front of a tree. And the tree itself had an overhang branch. And what I've noticed during the first day of my investigation, that the tree itself, mind you, there was a year later, that the tree was covered with mostly the branch that was the overhang, a bright fluorescent lichen. I guess it's like a fungus filaments that it looked like cornflakes, which was very unusual. So I took photographs of that, and this was the only tree in his yard that had that. So there had to be a connection between the entity's appearance and that. So that made me think that the connections that I made. Let's see, I'm sorry. I'm
No.
blanking out on you here.
No, I'm glad that you've got your notes. This is awesome.
There were some cases that was investigated by. I'm sorry.
Ted Phillips. Now, I know at one point you reached out to Ted Phillips.
Exactly. I contacted Ted Phillips, and I sent him an email, and he said, there's a few of his cases that he investigated during the 60s and 70s that had a similar event that occurred by having an object land and take off, and let's say the radiation or something that was emitted by the craft that increased the growth of mushrooms, strangely enough. So some people, Ted Phillips is currently the director of CPTR, and me read a quote that he wrote to me on one of the emails. He said, "Norm, yes, not often, but I've seen accelerated growth like this, generally mushroom growth." And he said there could be a connection between these, dare I say, ultra dimensional appearances that would affect grass, trees, and increase their lifespan. Now, just going back to Chris Belesso's tree in his backyard there, he told me about a year or two later that the tree itself pretty much just crumbled, died, and fell over. So that was very unusual, and it's something they have to keep in mind during these type of investigation. Can you hear me?
Yep, hello? I can hear you. Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. My phone fell.
Oh.
So I thought I was disconnected. So I took samples of the lichen and sent that in as well. So let's go to a few miles away. We decided to do the next phase of the investigation. We all jumped in his car and we went over about maybe 12 miles away or so to Cape Fear River, where the whole thing started. And we got off the main road, drove onto a dirt road that led into going down to a hill and a couple of curves, and then that we ended up in a flat surface right next to the river. And this is where his three friends and son were fishing when the whole thing started. They were basically having a good time fishing, and Christopher, I'm sorry, I keep saying Christopher decided to, he wasn't really in the mood to fish, so he decided to take a little walk looking for deers and whatnot. So he walked up towards the field, and too much detail. So there were these guys witnessed. I guess you can say orbs. They were lights, bright lights that was hovering above ground, and they just hovered down to almost over the trees, and they just sat there. And they started to panic. I know there was a lot of other details in there. And his son, I will go ahead and say Junior, he witnessed lights, and there were some orbs. There were bright orange orbs that were floating or levitating in and out the trees in the background. So that was very interesting, since we're talking about orbs earlier, and those were witnessed. And jumping ahead, his son panicked. He went into the woods and hid. And the lights, he still could see the lights. It was like a bright red light, but some of the foliage were blocking his view. But he witnessed right a little bit above, next to the river, there was a fire pit there, and he witnessed two entities pretty much standing right at the fire pit. One of them bent down and picked up a bottle, empty bottle. It was very fascinating. It looked like they were trying to figure out what this is and why these strange objects were there. So he saw that. And while he was hidden, I'm going to go back to Christopher while he was walking up. And right when he got out of the edge of the forest from the river, he saw lights. Let's go ahead. I'm going to say UFOs. And skipping along with one of the objects he saw was a bright, pretty much about 40 feet in diameter, an object that appeared a little bit above him. And let me go ahead and read a little bit about that. The object is described as oval shaped with multiple rotating protrusions radiating from all around his body. And I described it as a sea urchin, if you can imagine what that looks like. It's this glowing sphere with spikes, and that was rotating slowly. And it was pretty much hovering about 20 feet off the ground. And this is when, by reading the initial report, and when we talked during the interview, that next thing I know, he was running down the hill, and it was dark. And then met up with the guys, and his son was very concerned, and they all pretty much panicked. They all ran and jumped into the truck and took off. Now, Junior, his son, noticed that he said these entities were pretty much chasing after the truck. Now, if you could imagine how a humanoid looked like, and it appeared that they distorted their bodies into almost dog-like creatures with hind legs. And they were
I remember him saying that and how frightening that was to see the distortion.
It's bad enough as it is having UFOs and aliens, and then they have them convert into some type of creatures chasing after them. So that in itself was pretty horrifying. They took off. But I'm not going to go back to the house. And when I interviewed during the first visit at Christopher's house, I spoke to him and his son, and they were talking about what occurred, and it would seem like there was, I would not say argument, but the stories they told didn't connect very well. And this is the time that I discovered there was some missing time with Christopher, because he went up. It was still, the sun was setting, but there was still enough light so he could see. And next thing you know, he's running down the hill, and it was dark. So this is where the email that I sent to the headquarters, and basically I told them, hey guys, there was some missing time here, and I think we have to look at that. So this case pretty much was elevated from a close encounters of the third kind into a CS4 abduction. So, this is what pretty much made, everybody were pretty amazed, excited by it, and just at the right time, at the right place, there were a film company that were looking for basically to make a TV series on UFO investigation, and we just happened to have a couple of great cases, and they contacted us, and this is how they got into the first episode film for this series, UFO Over Earth.
And I will say that I've watched that many, many times, and again, I watched it again last night, and there's some questions I have, and I was very sad not to see you in there as much as you should have been, since you were such a pivotal part of the investigation. But we'll talk a little bit about that, and then about the trace samples. I'm Erica Lukes. This is UFO Classified. I'm here with Norm Gagnon, and we will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. I'm Erica Lukes. Always happy to be here and spend my Friday evening with all of you. I want to thank my friends in chat, Northern UFOs, Jeff, UFO author, Dug Down Under, all of you. Amy, thank you so much for always being here and asking great questions in chat and having wonderful conversations. I want to thank all my listeners from all over the world for supporting the show. This is a listener-supported show, and we appreciate you very, very much. I am here tonight with someone who investigated, in my opinion, one of the most important cases that we have ever seen. His name is Norm Gagnon, and he has been conducting investigations as a ghost hunter, as a UFO researcher since 1986. He has been involved with MUFON as a field investigator and was appointed to the STAR Team and worked with Bigelow Aerospace when they were involved with MUFON. So we're going to talk about that. And he was also a private investigator in the 80s and 90s. That is so cool. You look, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, because you look really way too young to have all these experiences.
Thank you. So what was the question?
We'll just roll right along there, but
okay.
So when we left off, we were talking, about Chris Bledsoe and the case that took place, and how both he and his son and then 3 other people that were with them in this encounter were terrorized. and had an experience, had missing time, and you put that together with Chris. I mean, I don't know if he necessarily knew that at the time, but you had mentioned that because things weren't adding up with the timelines for what the witnesses were telling you.
So what? Like I mentioned before, since his son and Christopher were chatting about this, and I noticed that it's just there was some missing time, basically, and I did contact headquarters to convey, and that would I'm going to give you a data on April 15th, 2008, and this is where the whole case had a pretty much a turbo boost, and everyone were like, wow, we have an abduction that occurred with him. And this is when, pretty much the same time, we were contacted by Robert Wise, is still a producer / director. At that time, he was working with a production company called Creative Differences. He contacted headquarters and then wanted to create a TV series, and they James Carrion contacted all of us and suggested that could we go ahead and use the Bledsoe case. I said, sure, wonderful. And during that time, the director of North Carolina, I'm not too sure who he was, but he more or less faded out or wasn't interested in being part of this production. So what they got is a field investigator, Richard Lang, that basically came in and took over his position. And he was pretty much the main guy that the production company contacted. And they called me to set up a shoot for this series. So we all went to North Carolina. Let's see, now that was probably, that was in June 2008. So we all met there. And you've got to realize that when investigators, they get together on a field to collect and analyze and investigate, trace evidence, and interview folks. And then if you have a movie crew in there with cameras, microphones, and all sorts of equipment, the personality changes. So people were quite aware of the cameras, and I'll give you a quick story. I was in a backyard, and they were setting up, the crew was setting up for the shoot, and I was looking at the circle again. I decided to take some more detailed measurements with my tape measure, and I had the producer, someone screamed at me, I think one of the production assistants. He goes, "Hey, you there?" And I kind of looked at him. Me? "Yeah, you're in the shot. Could you move, please?" Just, I'm sort of investigating here. He goes, "You move. You're blocking." I said, "Oh, sure. Okay, sorry." And
wow.
That time I was, how should I say that? I was gently pushed aside a little bit. Okay, so I'm taking over. James came in and said, "Okay, I'm taking over." And everybody want to jump in front of the, to be in the limelight. So, I mean, they weren't brutal or disrespectful. They were just excited over this whole thing. And I was excited too. I mean, finally, after all these years, the MUFON investigating, they making a TV show. So we did a lot of film. On one point, the crew separated. Unit 1 went out to interview some of the witnesses. There were a couple of guys that were fishing that witnessed these lights, and I remained behind in the house, at Christopher's house, and they set up a camera. That was Unit 2. And the guy said, okay, Christopher, sit down in a chair. Norm, sit here and go ahead and take your sketch pad, pencil, and talk to Chris and do what like you did back then when you were interviewing him. I was taking sketches. I was asking questions. The camera was on. And we were filming at least a good 15 minutes or so. Did a lot of sketches. Did the entities sketch at the two entities, a junior witness at the fire pit next to the river. And Christopher described the UFO with spikes and was talking. I was sketching like a mad, crazy guy. And I got everything on film. The camera caught in the back of me looking at my pad. And we did other interviews of me speaking to his son. And I showed him the sketch, and he reacted to it. He goes, oh, my goodness, yeah, these are the entities I saw. And other stuff that was videotape. But ultimately, all of it were pretty much on the cutting room floor. They edited everything out. I'm laughing because I said, okay, sure. And when they finally showed the episode, okay, I'm still waiting. I was, oh, there I am, way in the background. And they finally, I got to add a little more detail. They did the polygraph test. I got to talk more about that. The result of the polygraph test, the gentleman was an ex-FBI agent who conducted the test on Christopher. And then, and I sort of jumped in, and so I'm going to sit right here with the guys. And the guys, sure. So they film, and okay, go ahead.
No, I was because Chris has talked about this before, and I want to talk a little bit about how that got arranged. Whose idea was that, and was Chris caught off guard when he walked in to film that, and then to take the polygraph?
Christopher, he really wanted to get everything off his chest and wanted really to find out what's going on, why it's going on. And there was a mental block. I remember he took his hand and put it over his head, and it was almost like he was separating. It looked like someone was trying to call me. So he wanted to have a polygraph test. And Richard Lang said, sure, okay, go ahead, we'll contact someone. I don't know why, how he got this person, but apparently he called someone he was willing to give him the test. Now, during I was not physically there during the test, the polygraph test, but during the reveal of the result of the test, I was sitting there, and they were filming that process. And the gentleman said that you got to be careful. A lot of folks who saw the episode, and even through the emails and message boards, they were pretty upset at this guy. But you got to carefully listen to what he said. It's in the TV episode as well. He said, and he was talking to us. He said, does everything he said was a lie? You cannot say that. He said, you have to combine the field investigation and the information that was obtained and everything else, and you got to put everything else into one package. Now, the polygraph machine, they're not 100% accurate. They got little needles that go up and down, and then even a heartbeat can just make one of these needles go crazy. You got to realize that Christopher was under a lot of very stressful condition and went through a lot. And there was a mental block I believe that was created or caused by these entities purposely blocked him so he won't remember. And he's not the first one that went through this type of abduction. But so while he was taking under the test, the polygraph, he wasn't sure what occurred, and that's why after the hypnosis came along, either after or I think it was after. So if he wasn't sure what happened, but he was sure that something occurred, he was taken out. He went under some strange condition, when taken up inside of a craft, and his mind was erased slightly, and then the polygraph needles were going up and down slightly and going all over the place. So the readings that the test result wasn't accurate. So being the guy who gave the test, it's either yes or no or black and white. It wasn't 100%. According to what the truth is. So that was his interpretation of the test. But
and I've got to ask you, anywhere along the line, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but anywhere along the line, who on the MUFON side was in charge of this, and at what point did somebody step in or not and say, hey, when a person and his son and his whole family have had such traumatic experiences, we're going to do the right thing and step in and say, hey, it isn't okay to, even if he wants to do a polygraph test, we want to make sure that we're protecting him and not exposing his family to any further trauma. I mean, was there any of that?
I wasn't in those meetings. So, like I said, I did show up during the first dates. We shot for a couple of days. So I showed up, and then next thing I know, through exchange of emails with James and the rest of the crew, and Richard Lang, I got someone to do the polygraph, and I got another person who's going to conduct the other tests on him. So I just showed up, and the tests were already conducted while I wasn't particular physically there, but I was investigating other locations. So I agree with you. I'm not too sure. I guess some paperwork were signed, but Christopher can give you more details on that to give permission for those type of tests.
And I have to say that I know that we've talked about this before, and I know that you are a good human being and you cared. And I honestly, when I looked at the episode, I feel like James and Richard Lang probably also, are good human beings. And so I'm not quite sure where how any of this played out or who was truly in control. But it was interesting to see how you did all the hard work, and then it was kind of pushed off to other people. And then in the end, when Chris had such traumatic, and his son had such traumatic experiences, how all of that affected them, especially after the episode aired.
Yeah. You've got to think the MUFON at that time, they were trying to do their best to go through the analysis and tests, and they want to, let's say, hey, we're scientifically minded folks, and we have to conduct the following tests. You cannot just take his word for it. So I'm just speaking in the general now. So that's why they went out and got all these gentlemen who did the hypnosis and telegraph, and so I guess they were trying to beef up the script, if you will, for this episode.
Right.
And then that probably backfired, but whatever the results were at that time, I did believe that Christopher and his son went through traumatic, very scary experience, but something positive came out of that eventually.
It did. Absolutely.
It did.
And Chris, I mean, I know that Chris has a lot of respect for you, and I think that's wonderful. And I like you say, and you bring up a really, really good point. It's like we are not given a lot of tools to do this, and we're amateurs. We have a lot of us don't have a scientific background, and we're doing the best we can, and we want to be taken seriously. And so, how I understand that everyone was probably trying to do the best they could in a situation like this where nobody's had any experiences with this. How do you deal with it? How do you handle it?
Erica, I was just thinking that also, being investigators, we still had to follow a script, a schedule. We have 2 days to shoot, and I'm pretty sure it's like that with a lot of the shows out there, and sometimes you got to act a little bit, and we have to get this thing done. We have this, we got to go somewhere else to shoot, and then pack up and leave. So it could have been done much better if we had the time, the money, and everything else. But I think the Hollywood limelight kind of took over this whole thing, and let's get this thing done. Let's get the results, and let's see the expression on this guy's face, and the lighting, action camera, and then boom. So it could,
right.
Maybe we learn something from this, and hopefully there is, in the horizons, there'll be some more shows done with a little bit more planning.
Well, it's hard because, I understand, producers, like you said, they've got their agenda, and all of these things happen, and the way they creatively edit things. And, again, last night when I was watching the show again, to hear Richard Lang say, we're going to get this evidence and hit him right between the eyes about the polygraph test, I thought, well, is that... how can you creatively edit that? That seems pretty interesting to me. So it's and hopefully all of this is a big learning process. And I know that, I don't believe that anybody that was out there at all was doing anything other than the best job that they thought they could do.
At the time that
Right.
they had, Yeah, it's, but, Christopher, all of this is behind now, and I believe that he's more peaceful with everything that occurred, and he developed a lot of wonderful talents in appreciating nature and art and sketches and painting, and heck, I think he was in the process of growing organic vegetables at one point behind his yard. So he's taken it well.
He has, but it's been a tough road. It's been and I will say I've talked to him about what happened with his son and things, and I want to, just a little teeny bit. We can talk about that when we get back, and then talk a little bit about some of the other investigations that you've done, because you've done some amazing things. I am Erica Lukes, and we are here in UFO Classified. Stick around for a great night of women on the network. Tina Marie will be up with Restricted Airspace, and then Hyperspace with Solaris Blue Raven. We will catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Hello everyone, this is David Cook from the Ghosty Hour. Wishing you all a Merry Christmas, and it's time to enjoy a different kind of spirit. But please do so safely and have a very happy Christmas with your family.
Paranormal, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal.
The U.S. military holds the ability to time travel.
Jeremy Scott asks the questions that we're all dying to know.
Wow, that's a remarkable question.
Watch your step. Hide under your blankets.
The show that is going to make you think.
Prepare yourself for what you're about to hear.
This transmission is coming to you.
You're riding into the paranormal.
Live Saturday night, 6 to 9 on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
Jump in bed and cover up your head, 'cause Santa Claus comes tonight.
This is Misha Johnston.
Mary Munoz.
Hannah Thorson.
With Starseed Awakening.
It doesn't matter how Santa's gift gets there. Doesn't even matter if it's Mr. Postman in his spaceship. As long as it gets there. You made it happen. No one got left out.
Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year.
Ho, 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 ho.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific.
For Hyperspace.
The one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven.
Solaris Blue Raven.
Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Want to take a ride? You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy holidays, my friends. I hope that you are having a wonderful adventure and you're safe and with your family and doing fun holiday things. I know that I'm not, and I'm actually, maybe we'll go out tomorrow night and look at Christmas lights or do something, sing a Christmas song. I used to sing in a jazz band, as many of you know, and I used to love singing this time of year. Santa Baby was one of my favorites, and maybe one of these days I'll get the band together and record that and play it for you, but I dare to dream. So on that note, I am here with Norm Gagnon, and we are talking about a really important case that he was the lead investigator on. Norm has been doing paranormal research and UFO research since 1986, and he's been on several TV shows. He's very cool. He was a private investigator in the 80s and 90s. There's so much more that we could talk about, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I want to get back to Chris Bledsoe, because this is very interesting. And we were talking about how the movie crew came in and there was a really quick turnaround time, and then the polygraph test and all of these things. What, after the crew left, what was the time frame? What happened with the investigation?
Oh my goodness. That's pretty much it. The crew left. We pretty much. I personally just packed and left. I like I mentioned to you earlier that I kept all of my notes. I still got all my notes. Most of the emails that were transpired between all of us, and that's why I like to keep everything that occurred, the dates, the time, just to have a good dossier, if you will. Now, after that, the case were pretty much closed. And when the shooting took place, we just decided to go and do this, the production. So. Let's see, nothing. Okay, well, I'm sorry. That's all I have.
No. And so, was it your feeling that, I mean, after the production wrapped up and everything, was it who was it that finally closed the case? Was that James or Richard?
Well, the case, like I said, it was pretty much closed, and so basically we just took this information as almost like a script and used it to have something to film about. But once that the case that I was involved with, it closed, and that's pretty much it. Now, Christopher did have other unusual, dare I say, visitations and sightings, and through a few years, I contacted him once in a while through email. One of the trees in his backyard burst into flames, which it was pretty strange. And one of his sons actually filmed it. The tree just started burning from within, but it didn't totally consume. The flame did not. It's almost like it was enclosed inside and then burning. So I contacted him and decided to write a follow-through article for the MUFON Journal I believe it was in March in 2013. So I interviewed him and talked about the burning flaming tree, we call it, and which was, I would say, just a few feet from where the circular impression was burnt into his backyard. So there may be a connection, but it seemed like whatever occurred back there, back in his yard, seems to affect the trees, strangely enough. Now, I don't know how, but there's all sorts of unusual elements that still going on, and I believe that he's Christopher now seems to develop a sensitivity to these entities or orbs, lights, and he feels that he can predict when they are going to show up. So only Christopher can give you more details on that, but
he does have a gift, and it's interesting because it was such a, from listening to him tell his story, I've seen your investigation in UFOs over Earth, and then had him on the show, and I've talked to him many times, and to hear all of this, to be out with your friends, and then to have this series of events happen that absolutely blow your mind, and then to have these things follow you to your home, and to have a son that is at a really pivotal age and going through a lot, and you're trying your best to deal with this, and you have no one to turn to, and so 12 months later you turn to MUFON, and everybody moves in and then does this TV show. And I know after the TV show aired that his children it was very hard for them because they had their teachers or different students in their environment that were kind of making fun of what was happening. And so there was a real long-term aftermath from that show. And I don't believe that MUFON, I think it was just like, we're done and we're going to leave this. And I don't know if, in hindsight, if there would be more of a support system for he and his family, especially after being put out there on, for everyone to judge on network TV. I would hope, and I know that this isn't you because you're so kind and thoughtful, but I wonder if Richard Lang or James Carrion had thought about the implications or thought about what that did to their family.
Wow, I do agree with that. I cannot speak for them, but the result of the show itself, it did. His son was ridiculed, and I'm sure that was pretty rough on him. But hopefully speaking of that, when it comes to witnesses, UFOs, and close encounters, if I may, during the first visit, I investigated. I went to a regional airport there. It was just a few miles away. By the way, Christopher is also a pilot. Wonderful general contractor. He knows how to use a hammer. He knows how to use a rifle. He's an excellent professional hunter, and very, very wise when it comes to a lot of things. But anyway, I went to visit the regional airport there, and I walked in and introduced myself as a field investigator, and then I needed to get more information because being an airport, pilots would have seen unusual lights, assuming they were flying at night. And I spoke to a few people there, and they said, no, we didn't hear anything, but I did hear about Christopher, and they were almost like they were laughing, or almost like he was being ridiculed. So, and it's tough. I didn't particularly like what occurred there, but I told them that we're taking this investigation seriously, and thank you for speaking to me. And then I didn't get anything from them, but it's for me, finding out the missing time, I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse but I was doing what I needed to be done, and I don't know if they spoke to Christopher about it. Apparently, they must have the production and James and Richard. I don't know if they spoke to him if he was willing to go through all of that. But my opinion that he needed to get all of this off his chest, and people need to know what occurred. But there is a dark side to that there's always folks out there that would ridicule, make fun, and even today, the TV stations, when they have footage, someone submitted footage of a bright light or some triangular craft hovering over a city, that they play silly music in the background, the Star Trek or the X-File theme, to tongue-in-cheek and making fun of people like that. But it's going to take a while for people to take it seriously, and these things happens.
Right, and it will. And I think that for me, looking at what Chris went through, knowing him personally, knowing what a toll that took on, especially his son, who is now gotten through all of this and is very successful. And I have to think that Chris and his wife are amazing human beings for raising a son and having him go through all of that. I mean, both of his children, but I think that it's important for us as researchers to look at the way, for me, when I'm doing this, and I'm sure it's the same way for you, this isn't about, great, we use the scientific method. Okay, great, that's what we've got. But there's also this other aspect. When somebody like Chris comes to me, and I know you felt the same way, and talks about these experiences, and in your heart that these were absolutely real, where does the responsibility lie? And mostly I ask that to the MUFON superiors. Where do you draw the line at protecting people or putting them out there to be the sacrificial lamb? And I feel like Chris has been brave and done amazing things, and he has done that on his own and by the grace of God. But how do we move forward in a productive way and make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah. We need. Well, I think Christopher is talking to a lot of folks who went through this pretty much the same as he did, alien encounters and all of that. So that's part of the healing process, I believe. And folks like that need to. I'm sorry, the power just went out in the whole building.
Oh.
That is very strange. Well, at least the telephone's still working. I'm glad that Christopher is going through the healing process right now, but I think he moved on. And as for MUFON, maybe perhaps he should be a little bit more develop a group that would help folks like that. But I think they do have someone who, a section that takes care of the part of their regression process and talking and in group sessions and all of that. So I'm not I don't know too much about that aspect of the wing of MUFON, but I believe he's doing much better now.
He is. He's amazing, and I know that Colonel John Alexander comes out there very often, and Doug Auld, the painter, and Grant Cameron, and all of these people go out there and give him tremendous support, which is awesome. And he is still having very profound experiences. And I'm sure, like most of us, like you've had experiences as well. I mean, we're all striving to figure out what does this mean? Where do we go? How do we look at all of this, and how do we move forward in a progressive manner instead of, holding on to these ways that we've been doing things for 50 years that aren't yielding any results. And I have to ask you one more question about the trace evidence, because you said that you had taken some trace evidence. Whatever happened with the analysis of that?
Let's see. The trace evidence I collected from the lichen from the backyard, the tree bark, the circle. I collected grass, dirt, inside and outside, and I did some. That in itself, it was packed, taped, sealed, and sent to headquarters. So pretty much that's the last time I've seen the evidence that was sent, and I don't think anything was done to it or was pretty much thrown into a box and shelved. I don't know what really occurred at the headquarters. I think they were like pretty much tired of this whole incident and case, because a lot of people were upset, and they said, okay, I was told not to just get away from it, don't talk about it anymore, Norm, and just move on. So, which I did. I did take a Geiger counter, some EMF tests were also conducted at the river, but nothing. There was any abnormal readings from that because, being a year later, I think it was a little too late for that type of scanning and all. And the amount of time that I was there, I could have done much, much more measuring, analysis, and all of that. But it's one of those drive-through, hey, you've got this time, you got to do this, and then come back. So. And
I mean, and I will say that you did. I know you were very meticulous about what you did. You went out there and you did everything you were supposed to do by the book, and you collected evidence and sent it to headquarters. And I know that you did that. And I want to just tell you that I think it is really important that you're talking about this, because this is such a pivotal case. And I think that I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for talking about it. And I want to just ask you too that Chris had requested the records from the case, and headquarters said that they had lost them. Do you know anything about that?
I recall that occurred. I was contacted, and the thing is that there's so many people involved. We had Richard Lang took over the director's seat at the North Carolina. James Carrion came in, and then the original investigator that went there for a couple of days were Steve McGee. And I think everybody assumed that everybody else sent Christopher the file. And I assumed that they did that from Richard. He written his own version of the investigation, which I have a copy somewhere on my dossier, which I like to say. And then I was told that, and it wasn't from by the Russians either. That's a little politics nonsense there. I was told by headquarters that he goes, Norm, why do you send your result of the case? He goes, well, Then somebody else did. Did this person did? I assume. I never assume. So Norm, send, which I did. I had no problem. I just made a wonderful colored Xerox of everything I found out, including the time of the specific time of I find out about the missing time, and I sent it to Chris. And it was very appreciative. It's just an oversight that they all were so involved in, perhaps during the TV series, that they all forgot, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, I would think on a pivotal case like that, though, they would put stuff in there. And I know when I looked at the case, and I contacted you as well, that I was shocked that when I looked at the case, there were only like 2 or 3 paragraphs about a case that took 6 months to investigate.
Yeah, I actually visited the case today. There was the initial report by McGee, and then I had some detailed information that I added later, and then it seemed like everybody was fighting among themselves, angry. Just don't visit there, pull the plug, don't go there. I could have sworn that case disappeared on me for a while. I was looking for it, and then it reappeared, which was strange. There's a lot of things I don't know about what's going on up in headquarters, and it's not my business, but I'm glad that things are being clarified a little bit better.
Yes,
today.
thank you so much. Thank you. That is really, like I said, it's really important. And I know that you care about what you're doing and what you're researching, and about the people that, like Chris and all of the witnesses that you've worked with. And I think it's for all of us to learn from this is important. And I really appreciate you being here tonight. I think you rock, and we need to go to Ireland.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
And we'll call Barry.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy too. Yeah, there'll be something to plan. Let's do that.
Okay. I'm going to make it happen. I'm telling you, I'm putting it out there to the universe, and we've got enough people that we know in the TV production world that we could go over there. I took all of my video gear to Heshtalen, so maybe we could do a GoFundMe and go over there and do a little TV project. That would be a lot of fun. And I hope maybe I could get Barry Fitzgerald to be on the show, and you could help me interview him.
Okay, I think you'll do a wonderful job. You don't need.
Oh, come on, it'll be fun. But I have to say, we're getting ready to wrap up. I'm telling you, I'm gonna hold you to this. But we're getting ready for the show close. So where can people find you?
Well, I'm still using my old email, which is search.investigator@gmail.com. I do have a Facebook site. I know it's kind of old school, but I meet a lot of people there, so you can always contact me there as well, and make friends and message.
Oh, awesome! Awesome. I love that, and I'll be posting stuff, about where to find you, and then what you're doing, and all of this, because there's so much more that we didn't talk about, and I want to have you back again really, really soon. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was really amazing to hear you talk about this tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me to your show.
Absolutely. And I hope all of you have a wonderful holiday weekend. I am Erica Lukes, and stick around for a great night on KCOR. Tina Marie is coming up with Restricted Airspace, and we will see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.